Welcome to Feel Good From Within. I'm Yvette Le Blowitz, your host. Today's guest is Dr. Kress, who is a Princeton University trained clinical psychologist with more than 20 years of experience helping people to heal past wounds and manifest the life they've always wanted. In Heal Your Past to Manifest Your Future, Dr. Kress shares trauma-informed tips to help release emotional blocks so you can reclaim a sense of optimism and open to life's possibilities. I'm truly grateful that you are choosing to listen into this podcast episode. Thank you, my friend. I hope this conversation helps you to learn, develop, and grow.
Hi, everyone. It's Yvette Le Blowitz from spiritgirl.com, and welcome to Feel Good From Within. I'm super excited to be here with you today and with our very special guest, Dr. Kress, who is a clinical psychologist, author of Heal Your Past to Manifest Your Future, trauma-informed practices to release emotional blocks and open to life's possibilities. I discovered this book here in Australia via Audible, and I thought, what an incredible title, first of all, and also how I'd never seen a book when it comes to manifestation that addresses trauma-informed practices. As your podcast host, I have experienced a lot of trauma over my many, many years and decades. So I thought, what a gift to you to share with you Dr. Kress' book and words of wisdom. Dr. Kress, how are you today?
Hi, Yvette. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and to talk to you about trauma-informed manifesting.
Before we dive into your book, are you happy to tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
I'm a clinical psychologist in the States, based in Princeton, New Jersey. That's on the East Coast, Northeast. And I've been practicing psychotherapy for over 20 years. And I'm author of a book that just came out recently. And I've always loved manifesting. I discovered it as a teenager. And eventually, when I became a psychologist, I really wanted a more robust approach to manifesting. And so that's when I integrated psychology into it so that we can really get through blocks and have a more inclusive, sensitive kind of approach to manifesting. So that's kind of my background in a nutshell.
When it comes to manifestation, how manifestation can either help our mental health or hinder it?
That's a really great question. I look at manifesting as basically making our dreams come to reality. And there are lots of different ways to do that. And a lot of people hear about manifesting or have heard about manifesting when they read a book like The Secret or something like that. It's basically about bringing your dreams into reality, whether it's from a more spiritual perspective, like The Secret and books like that talk about the law of attraction, right? You probably heard about the law of attraction, which is more of a spiritual kind of metaphysical idea where like attracts like, that your energy, whether it's positive or negative, that it's going to attract those kind of experiences into your life. And there are other approaches to manifesting as well, more of a psychological approach where we have limited beliefs and these limited beliefs create our reality. And so when we can release those beliefs, can change our reality, right? And so there are different ways to talk about manifesting, but I think that's a really great question. Is it helpful or is it harmful? And I'll give you the typical therapist response, which is it's and both, right? Where I think manifesting can be really, really fun. There are a lot of different techniques, whether it's visualization, doing a vision board, scripting, where you're writing out your future or connecting with your future self. So there are a lot of different techniques and they can be a lot of fun. But there is a downside or potential drawback where it can actually be potentially harmful for some people, especially ideas around the law of attraction, where people start thinking, well, if I have a negative thought, then it's going to attract negative experiences to me. So they try to suppress all their negative thoughts or their negative emotions. And so they try to be so perfectly positive that it actually can harm their mental health, can exacerbate symptoms because that's not the natural way that we are. We need a mixture of emotions. We actually will have negative thoughts. So our relationship to our thoughts is what's more important than having constant stream of positive thoughts, which is honestly unrealistic for most people. So it can increase anxiety, can increase depression, where depression, especially if you're like, well, they said I could manifest money. They said I could manifest the love of my life, and I didn't do it. Was I not positive enough? Or, what did I do wrong? So a lot of self-blame can come about, a lot of shame and feeling kind of like I did it wrong. Even obsessive compulsive disorder can get worse because we're trying to focus so much on getting rid of negative thoughts and only being positive that for some people it exacerbates those symptoms. So it can have drawbacks. It can be harmful, but it can also be helpful if it's integrated, I think, in a sensitive way that supports our mental health, supports our self-compassion, and is really, I think, more nuanced and thoughtful.
So when it comes to the manifestation, obviously it starts with a vision of trying to figure out what you might like your future life to be like in some kind of way, whether that might be going on a dream holiday to the Maldives and then figuring out that that costs money and days off, and being able to build a savings plan around that to pay for the holiday. For someone who might think, oh, I don't really know what I want to manifest. I just got told that if I think about something, a dream holiday, and I put it out there to the universe, I want a dream holiday in the Maldives, and I think about it, then it's done. The universe will deliver it to me.
Yeah, I think there is this idea that I almost say that happens by magic, right? Is a magical component you can certainly play with when it comes to manifesting, and it is fun. And also there is this active component. How are you going to be an active participant in the process? Because I think in terms of psychology especially, and if somebody has experienced any kind of trauma or feeling disempowered in any way, you want to have that sense of agency, that sense that I can do things, I can take action, and it will have a result, right? It doesn't always have the perfect result, but I can actually move towards things and be an active agent in my dreams. I think there's this component of a little bit of magic and fun and serendipity and kind of putting things out there. And it really is fun, but combining that with being an active participant in your healing and in your manifesting and taking action is really, really important to feel empowered and to feel like you can actually affect the world and you can manifest more things, and you're not just sort of helplessly waiting for things to happen.
I love that. I have a lot of people who reach out and they want to go on a dream holiday to the Maldives because that's something I'm passionate about inspiring others to do. Even when I spoke to someone, I said it could take you 10 years of savings by having that action there and that plan forward. You will achieve it over time with the vision of you are going. When it comes to the vision boards, one of the things I found really interesting in your book was to create the vision board, meaning putting photos and pictures and things that you want to embody or things you want to manifest. What was fascinating was you mentioned to look at it fresh when you're in a positive, uplifted mood, not in an angry, frustrated mood. Can you talk to us a little bit about what is a vision board? Why should we have one to help us manifest our dreams? And a little bit more about why not to look at it when you're in an angry mood?
That is a great question. I have a 3-step process to manifesting, which is regulate, meaning regulate your nervous system, reparent, which is reparenting your inner child, and rewire. So rewire your brain to open to new possibilities, right? The vision board process that you described, how to approach the vision board, that's a part of rewire, the 3rd step, which is you really want to be in a regulated, centered, doesn't have to be calm. It could be excited actually, but a regulated state where you're not having a stress response, kind of hijacks your emotions and makes you feel kind of like overwhelmed or shut down. So you want to be in a centered place when you are working on manifesting, whether it's looking at your vision board, whether it's working on a vision board, whether it's visualizing, listening to podcasts about manifesting, thinking about your future, thinking about money. Because if you're thinking about money when you're in a dysregulated state where your nervous system is kind of in that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, you're going to be thinking about money in a very different way than when you're in a centered place. when you're regulated. With the vision board, I'll give you the fun example of I recently did a workshop at a women's retreat where we did vision boards, and it was really fun. You can actually find these really great picture books on Amazon where it represents different types of women, different types of bodies, wellness themes and lifestyles that are actually more aligned with our well-being and mental health rather than just random magazines. So I really like to just buy a couple of those when I do these workshops and, really crank up the fun, uplifting music, get people in that space where they feel that something is possible. Because when we feel safe, when we feel connected, our sense of possibility opens up. And that's when you want to connect with your dreams, because you're going to be more open. You're going to be more likely to believe in possibility. You don't have to believe that it will happen. You could believe that it could happen. That's enough. And so in that state, you're really going to connect with that vision from a place of belief and possibility and openness. And when you're not in that state, maybe put that vision board away. Maybe that's not the time to focus on manifesting. By doing this, you're rewiring your brain to link and connect your dreams with possibility and openness and optimistic kind of feelings, like feeling more joyful, peaceful, whatever it might be in that moment. Neurons that fire together, wire together. That's a sort of expression to talk about how we rewire our brains. So you're linking your dreams with these uplifted emotions at the same time. And over time, there will be a tipping point where you start to believe it's possible. And so that's the rewiring piece.
I love that message. Over time, you're rewiring and you're believing it's possible. So it's the belief that it could be possible, or it's the belief of possibility. So that if someone's feeling really traumatized that they went broke, that right now they don't have enough money because of the cost of living, and then everything that their dream is attached to is monetary, when it's a house or a car or a holiday or something that needs money for that dream, it can be really hard, isn't it? So if someone's in that stress state and they're wanting, as an example, to save enough money for a house deposit to buy a house, but they're constantly in stress.
Mm-hmm.
One of the interesting things I found in your book, it was in chapter 2, and it was actually universe prayer. I've spoken to so many people with the cost of living crisis, and so many people are in a state of despair. So people just aren't feeling optimistic like they used to. They're in despair. So I loved that prayer. Are you able to share that with our audience?
Yeah, sure. And it's really simple and short, but I think when we feel frustrated, overwhelmed, despairing, desperate, it's really good to have some sort of practice, whether it's imagining yourself or saying a prayer or whatever it might be, kind of handing it over. If you believe in the universe or higher self, whatever your belief might be. And so the prayer is, I am turning this whole frustrating situation over to you, universe. Please show me the way, or kindly and gently manifest it or something better for me. Thank you. Again, it's very simple, but it's just this idea of allowing something else that's larger than you kind of take over at that point, right? Because when we feel that small, we need to have a sense of feeling like we're held and being supported in some other way. And I think for some people that really resonates and gives you that feeling, again, kind of safety. And that's the trauma-informed piece. Prayer isn't for everyone. That's not the only practice. There are plenty of other kind of practices, but really it's all about feeling safe. And when we feel safe, it's a lot easier to feel, again, open to possibilities, and also for our nervous system, our body, and our mind to open to maybe more creative solutions sometimes. Sometimes we get an idea that in a dysregulated kind of stressed state, we wouldn't have. And so when we can center ourselves with the different practices, it's a lot easier to have those creative solutions come to us.
Thank you for sharing that with our audience. That was such a beautiful prayer. I grew up going to a Catholic school as a young child. I think we were innately taught, maybe it was at school or from the nuns or from someone, but we were taught we could always call upon God, a higher realm or faith-based, in times of trouble and need. So I kind of grew up with that. But then obviously my dad is Aboriginal. So then we also were taught that our ancestors never die. Our spirit ancestors are alive, we always had this ability to call on a higher realm for support. I know for other people that maybe don't have a religion, faith-based, or any kind of support, even believing in something bigger than us, the galaxy or the energy of the world, putting it out there to something higher than us is such a nice relief when we're in a state of despair. I feel like you don't feel like you're on your own as much. You have a lot of clients that come to you because they're anxious from manifestation. There is so many gurus on social media, YouTube, courses, videos. Everybody's now a manifestation coach or expert. If they've manifested their dream or their ideal partner or their house or their business or whatever it might be, it can be really, really overwhelming. But for someone who is looking to go on a retreat when it comes to manifestation, what should they be looking for? Do you think that starting with the trauma-informed yoga practices, even at home, or trauma-informed meditation, if someone's in a state of trauma or it keeps triggering, what would you suggest?
I think anything that is trauma sensitive or trauma informed is going to empower you with a sense of choice, with a sense of reduced shame. We're going to provide psychoeducation, hopefully, about typical things that happen with trauma, which is you feel often a sense of shame, you feel a sense of worthlessness, you feel you have to chase sense of worth in things. So that comes up with manifesting sometimes. And it can make you change your beliefs in the world. And those beliefs are not these simple things you can just change by thinking some positive thoughts. They're persistent and they're things you don't necessarily want. It's something that you actually need a lot more support with, rather than just think positive thoughts and it'll go away and just be more positive. Anything that you can do, whether it's mindfulness or yoga or anything, if it's trauma informed and manifesting the way that I teach it as well, they're going to be more sensitive to things like, I'll give you an example of sitting with feelings. If you go on a long mindfulness retreat where they're like, all right, let's just sit with our sensations, sit with our feelings for hours and hours and hours. For many trauma survivors, that's triggering. That can really make you feel emotionally flooded because it's a lot to sit with those feelings and sensations. It can make you shut down and become dissociated. It can make you have panic attacks. There has to be an awareness around this idea that we have to kind of slowly build our capacity to sit with emotions, slowly build our capacity to feel what's happening inside of our bodies. And that has to be done in a very titrated way, little bits at a time. You don't want to bite off more than you can chew. Just having this awareness around sensitivity, being trauma informed, will help the facilitator of a workshop give you an experience that you can walk away feeling more connected, more empowered, more like you have choice and agency in your life, rather than feeling shame or re-traumatized, really. And so I think just being trauma informed, it can help you in any kind of experience that you walked into, whether it's a retreat, workshop, or you're starting a new, maybe a masterclass or something like that on mindfulness, manifesting, whatever it might be.
I love that, because I personally tried a somatic meditation, and it was really just starting out as a beginner, but it was only for 10 minutes or a little bit longer. But I have to say, the first time or the first few times I had to lay and connect to my body, the teacher had us feeling into our body where we could feel sensations, then what parts of our body felt relaxed and safe, even if it was only a limb. And we were just getting curious about how it feels, where we're noticing it, and our breath. For trauma survivors, that can be really difficult. And I remember even after the first 1 or 2 sessions, I was bawling, and I'm thinking, why am I crying after this? This is ridiculous. But then some part of my body must have bubbled up an old trapped memory from, I don't know, must have been 10 years before that. So I can see what you mean about the trauma-informed meditation, because there's so many different meditations. For the listeners, somatic meditation, if done with a teacher, obviously, or in a guided area, safe area, can that be helpful for trauma survivors?
Yes, I mean, somatic approaches can be really good, right? But again, they have to be trauma informed. And I think right now it's popular, so everyone's kind of free for all out there. So you really have to do your homework and make sure someone is trained properly. But what you described would probably be an example of what's called pendulation, which is having a taste of discomfort or a little bit of activation in your body, like stress activation, and then pendulating with a taste of safety or something neutral in your body, right? So going back and forth between the two can widen your window of tolerance or your comfort level. It can be helpful. I think sometimes if it's done in a group setting, that facilitator might not be tracking you specifically or helping you. Often it's better one-on-one, honestly. Then they can kind of track where you're at and what you need and help you so that you're not dysregulated. You're still within your window of tolerance, what you can tolerate, and actually process without shutting down or becoming overwhelmed. It is easier when it's one-on-one. Unfortunately, I think you have to kind of just sometimes test the waters, but always know that you have choice, that you can leave a situation if it really feels like, you know what, this isn't healthy for me.
Thank goodness it was one-on-one. You're so right. I don't think if I was with a big group, I would have let anything out because, you tend to just hold back everything, your emotions. How important is it for us to label our emotions and then discover that we are not the emotion?
There's so much research on affect labeling, which is just basically you name the emotion that you're experiencing and having that awareness. There's a great quote by Dr. Dan Siegel: if you can name it, you can tame it. Having that ability to just name whatever emotion you're experiencing can really help you regulate it, can help you not get hijacked by your emotion, but actually feel it. You're not stuffing it down, you're not suppressing it, you're still feeling it, but it's not hijacking you completely. You're not overwhelmed or shut down. So being able to actually label your emotions will help you regulate them. And if you can get really specific, that's even better, because then you'll know, am I anxious because I'm overwhelmed and I need to delegate? So I'm overwhelmed and that's the emotion, like getting really granular. Or am I anxious because maybe I am worrying a lot about things, and so I actually need to help myself calm down or help myself be reassured or talk to someone and feel reassured, right? So it depends on what is the specific emotion. So if you can get really specific, that's even more helpful. But the reason why it helps with manifesting is because if you have goals that are the appropriate goals for you, they're probably going to challenge you a little bit. If they're not challenging you, then, are they really goals you're really aiming for? Or are they just your everyday life, right? So your goals should challenge you a little bit, push you out of your comfort zone just enough so that you are growing, but that you're not sort of completely in despair or feel like you're spiraling and falling apart, right? It shouldn't be so out of reach. You could have smaller goals to get there so that it feels within reach. The reason it can help you to label your emotions is because you're going to regulate your nervous system by labeling your emotions, and you're going to withstand the stress and the discomfort of growth. When we have a stressor like a goal that's bigger, that we're trying to up level and change and grow, most likely have more protective and survival strategies that tell us, no, actually, let's choose the path of least resistance, the path we've always chosen, because that feels safe, it's familiar. Even if it's not safe, it feels familiar, right? We often can equate familiar with safe. So being able to do new things, up level, actually grow, requires us to be able to regulate those stress responses. And labeling our emotions is just like one of the most basic ways that we can start that process.
And in your clinic, do you find similar manifestation goals, whether that's find a partner, start a family, buy a house, start a business, get a career? Do you see these similar manifestation goals across your clients?
I mean, I think, it depends on the therapist, but for me, I definitely see typically around career and relationship. And career also meaning like money and things like that. So career and relationship, I see the most. And it's really interesting because often people will struggle in one or the other. They might actually be really good in one and they really struggle with the other. And so it's very interesting to see which trauma responses and which stress responses and patterns come up because they do differ. I guess it's helpful having clients who typically gravitate towards one or the other because then you've seen similar patterns. It's easier to help people move through blocks.
Even if I reflect on my life or when I talk to people, it always seems to be around a career, either getting a better paying job or upskilling to improve or get out of the job they don't really like right now. And then relationships, which seems to be getting harder and harder with the online world in terms of meeting the right person and then maybe not ghosting you after the date. There seems to be more challenges when it comes to relationships. When it comes to relationships, though, do you think the manifestation is, I was told once, you have to think about how you want the person to make you feel, not just going, I want to meet someone who's got plenty of money, super successful, good looking, fit, whatever. That was another manifestation guru on TikTok or YouTube. I heard it at the time saying it's about your values and how you want the person to make you feel. If you focus more on that, you may have a better chance of manifesting that or it being successful. When it comes to manifesting a relationship, I guess you have to know what kind of relationship you want to start with. What are the go-to tips for that?
I love this question because there are a couple points. One is kind of hit on a distinction that I make between wound-based goals and value-based goals. So wound-based goals might be, just like it sounds, based on your unmet needs from childhood, right? Emotional needs. Or also toxic cultural messages. So if you're chasing wound-based goals around relationship, you might be wanting someone to choose you. Might be wanting someone to see you. And those are great things, but we really need to provide those for ourselves so that we're not chasing. And so wound-based goals are things that we chase because of unmet needs, whereas value-based goals are goals, like you're talking about, goals that are based on our values, things that are important to us, things that we care about, and things that will actually help us thrive. And so if we're choosing value-based goals, it's going to be a lot easier. So when it comes to relationships and getting into a relationship, if we can focus on value-based goals, that's ideal. And also reparenting ourselves, like that second step that I talked about, reparent, that's really about providing those emotional needs for ourselves, the younger parts of ourselves, so that we're not chasing it through dating relationships. Of course, we want to find secure partners, people who do have more of those qualities of what's called secure attachment style. And we want somebody who's reliable, trustworthy, makes you feel safe, and is actually a safe person. And that's someone that you're going to have more of a successful likelihood for a successful relationship. And if you could provide some of those things for yourself by reparenting, so you have an internal secure attachment to yourself, and I spell out how to do that in the book. If you can do that for yourself, you're going to be a lot more likely to actually find those partners who feels more secure and more safe, because you're not going to be chasing people to meet your needs from childhood. You're going to provide those for yourself.
So you mean in terms of if someone has had an upbringing with two parents that might have been fighting, separated, maybe the parent wasn't always there to recognize what they were up to or what they were doing, and maybe the only time they recognize the child is when they won an award or won something at school, and they'd get recognition for that. Would that then mean that person from a wound-based perspective would be trying to do things to impress their partner?
Yeah, or they might be looking for a partner who's impressive, or a partner they can impress, right? It's about external validation. And so it's not really coming from that secure place. And again, we want to have self-compassion with all of these things if we don't have a secure attachment style ourselves. And it's understandable, especially if you have like an unpredictable childhood, parents being unpredictable or only giving you attention for achievements and things like that. It's understandable that we would struggle with attachment. And to give ourselves lots of self-compassion for that. Yeah, so we're going to look for partners based on some of those wounds. And so the more that we can give ourselves compassion and the more awareness we have around our wounds, so that we notice when we're seeking those things out in other people. And again, I spell out all the different ways in which that can happen, all of the different kind of needs that we're looking for in partners manifest much more successfully around relationships if we can have awareness around that and also provide a lot of those kind of needs for ourselves, which we can actually do.
In your book, you've got so much information in there. And I could talk to you forever about your book. It was so interesting. And like you said, it made sense then if you're in a relationship and someone's not a good communicator, then that could trigger past trauma because you're used to someone being unpredictable, and then it creates anxiety and stress around that if they're not predictable in their communication. When it comes to your own self-care rituals, how do you take care of yourself? What are some of your own self-care rituals?
Well, I take self-care very seriously because I think, as a mental health professional, I have to maintain my mental health and make sure that I'm a good role model in that way as well. So for me, it means a couple of different things. And I know when I'm not doing them because then I'm much more likely to get stressed out and have, my window of tolerance get smaller. So the types of things that I tend to do are meditation. So for me, meditation is helpful. And it's usually like a lot of visualization kind of meditations. Some of them I have in the book. Exercise, I think, is so important because, again, trauma is stored in the body, regulation happens in the body, so we can't separate the two, mental health and the body. So exercise, writing is really good for me. I feel really at my best when I'm writing, and I know when I'm not writing, and because I feel off, and then I realize, oh, I'm not working on a blog, or I'm not working on a chapter or something. That's a good reminder for myself. Those are the types of things I think I do on a regular basis to just maintain, and then anything else is just a bonus, I guess.
I love to journal. It feels like a really great way to get your thoughts and feelings out in a safe place and to get it off your chest instead of having to whinge to a friend who doesn't need it or a family member. It's so nice, isn't it, just to get it off your chest. When it comes to manifestation, if someone had to start today thinking about what they wanted to manifest, how could they even take the first step?
And this is someone who knows what they want to manifest.
I'm not sure if they do. Would you recommend they write down what they would like to manifest, even if it seems right now unachievable based on where they're at in their life? It could be around a passion, whether that's to write a book, a holiday. Everybody's dreams are so unique.
Yeah.
Do you think writing it down and just getting a bit clear about what it is, try to take it out of your head and put it in writing, can help to feel some kind of clarity?
Yeah, I think getting clarity is usually the first step in manifesting, because you don't want to be 10 steps in and you actually don't want that thing. So getting really clear on it, making sure it's aligned with your values and what's actually going to make you thrive and is not based on wounds. Ideally, getting external validation, but rather just feeling good and what's going to help you thrive. So getting that clarity. But in terms of like an actual practice, I think what's really, really fun is a practice called scripting, where you write out a journal entry as if it's from your future self. So you could start out with a prompt like, today was a great day because, and it could be, I manifested this thing, and you describe the entire day in detail and really have sensory kind of details in there too. And just be wild, have fun with it. I think don't show it to anybody. Almost write it like a fiction writer would write it. And it can be really, really fun and engaging and really give you a sense of what you're fantasizing about. These are the types of things you want maybe more in your life. And it'll give you a lot of insight into how you can start incorporating some of these things into your life. So write from your future self and really have fun with it.
I love that advice. Write from your future self and really have fun with it. After listening to your book and even reflecting on my own journey, that negative self-talk can kick in. But when you talked about nearly like you're a script writer, write it, have fun, details, visualize, emotions, open it up to all possibilities, because we can be quite limiting, can't we, when it comes to our manifestation and not even be wild or outrageous or think big. We can kind of pigeonhole ourselves, can't we? Like if we grew up and you got told money doesn't grow on trees, we don't have enough money for that. Somehow subconsciously that's in the background. So the thought of buying the house up on the hill that's 1.5 million, you might even not be going there. You might be just trying to manifest a rental property that's $50 less than the one you're in right now. I love the idea of just being open to possibility.
Yeah, I love that. Your example of the $1.5 million house on the hill, right? Because why not? When we're in that centered, regulated space, the optimal space, what I call a manifesting mood for focusing on the vision, we can be as expansive and wildly, dreamy as we want. And that will actually make us more open, because often, like you said, we tend to have this tunnel vision and these limitations that we place on ourselves. And we often don't even see possibilities that are often right in front of us. There might be somebody offering you a job who keeps hinting at it and you don't even hear them, or a friend who's, has some sort of a connection for you or whatever it might be for a job, but you don't hear it because you're so focused and maybe like one potential solution, or like it's that $1.5 million house, rather than I just want to live in a house where I have lots of windows and nature and I feel spacious and it feels so good. So get back into focusing on the essence of what you want and how it's going to feel. That makes it a lot easier to not worry about the details that are going to put you in the survival state, kind of in a stress state. So again, focus on the essence of what you want and just have fun with the practices where you feel more and more expansive and, open to the possibilities. Again, you don't have to believe that it will happen. You have to just get yourself into a place where you believe it could happen. And that's all you need.
I love that. You have to get in a place where you believe it could happen. Because when I talk to some people who their family maybe grew up in a housing commission estate, then they are going to do the same thing and they think their kids are going to do the same thing and they think that's the only way. Even looking at that scenario, being open with the possibilities, visualizing the view you want to see and being open to the possibility is where it's at. Dr. Anna Kress, I could literally talk to you forever about your book. There are so many practical tips, questions. It was so interesting. And I feel like after COVID, everyone has definitely experienced trauma, some kind of loss, whether it's family members, businesses, a way of life. There was so much trauma during that period. We've now gone into another state of survival mode because of high inflation and the cost of living crisis, that I felt that your book really talks to that, because trauma can be anything, can't it, in terms of loss. So it could be like a loss of not being able to have a family, a loss of a loved one, a loss of a job.
It's less about the event and more about the impact it has on us. I really look at it from the lens of a very wide spectrum of different types of wounding. And I do talk about what complex trauma is and what post-traumatic stress disorder is, but I also the book is inclusive to anyone who's experienced those specific types of traumas, but everyone else as well. So it's not leaving anyone out. And I think a lot of books that talk about manifesting leave out trauma survivors specifically because they feel like, well, I can't be positive all the time. I don't believe that these things are possible for me. And I struggle in all of these different ways. So there was no space for them. So yes, I think, we can all kind of relate in different ways to this idea that our wounds can impact us and hold us back. And so there is a way through that to have a healing journey so that we can manifest the type of life that we do want.
If you've experienced trauma where you feel like you can't trust people, or you feel that people don't help you, depending on race or ethnicity or gender or whatever, that there's blocks there because of that, that's completely different to someone who has had a beautiful, incredible life of everyone's really amazing, helpful, trustworthy. So there is these different spectrums. So I remember a lady saying it's really easy for her to think positive around money because she always had it growing up as a kid. They had an abundance. And then another person has always had a life where everyone's gone out of their way to help them and to elevate them. So someone who hasn't experienced that, they're sort of a little bit back in the race. You said by reparenting yourself, regulating your nervous system, and then opening up to these possibilities and being kind and compassionate to yourself when you get negative emotions coming up. Oh, there's a negative thought. That's okay. It's a trauma trigger reaction. Just sit with it. That's why I loved your book. It sort of helps a person through complex trauma or trauma survivor as well. What is your hope for your newfound book readers or audio listeners?
I really hope that people can take from the book that they can have a sense of personal power, a sense of agency. And something that we didn't mention is my story, which is in the introduction, which is that I'm a political refugee and I grew up in the inner city. So I certainly know what it's like to not have those experiences of abundance and coming from that and having it later and through these practices. So I certainly am an example of the work, and I do talk about that in addition to my clients. So I hope that people can walk away with a sense of agency and empowerment, that they can manifest the type of life that they want, regardless of what their current circumstances are, which may very well be difficult, and definitely want to acknowledge that.
Because of your own personal story growing up, that also helped you to want to learn more about manifestation, getting over those roadblocks that even you had from your own upbringing as a child with lack.
Yes, definitely. So when I was a teenager, I discovered manifesting and it worked. It absolutely worked for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is magic, because I did all of the things. I did the affirmations, I did the visualizations, I did all of the things, the vision boards, the meditations, and it worked for a long time. I manifested so many things that I didn't think were possible. And I was, pretty depressed before that. The fact that it came from a lot of scarcity, obviously. So the fact that I was able to manifest these things was amazing. That was great until I kind of hit a roadblock eventually and realized that I had to integrate psychology to help people move through emotional blocks, right? Because I think if you put manifesting with psychology together, it can be very, very powerful. And so that's what made me kind of decide that that's the direction that manifesting, we need to have that more modern approach that integrates psychology.
You mentioned positive affirmations. Do you still recommend that with your clients? And can that really help if someone's right now not feeling healthy or fit? Can positive affirmations start to encourage them in a belief that I am healthy, I am well, I am safe, I am secure?
I think that people have to kind of feel in their bodies. Does this feel true? If it doesn't feel true, you're probably going to reject it and feel more resistance. So it really has to be about creating affirmations. Again, a regulated state when you're feeling good already, preferably, that feel true to you. So maybe it's like something that's a little bit more in the positive direction, but doesn't feel so out of reach that you actually feel worse when you say it. It depends. Sometimes when we're feeling really good, you can actually have these audacious kind of really, I am a money magnet or whatever the affirmations might be. You can have that when you're feeling really good and believe it. When you're dysregulated, affirmations could be a little bit more tricky. Maybe doing ones that are a little bit more aligned with like, I feel a little bit soothed, or I feel a little more reassured, or, those kind of affirmations could be helpful in those moments. Whereas when you're really feeling good, you're cranking up the fun music, you're feeling really great. Maybe that's the time to really go all into affirmations. Again, when you're in a manifesting mood, it's time to like kind of crank it up a little bit in terms of elevating that feeling, because it's a lot about how you feel manifesting. So really taking advantage of those moments, but don't expect that all the time. Life is not meant to have the emotional intensity of a music concert all the time. It's okay. Most of the time, just strive for emotional balance. That's good enough. But in those really good moments, maybe really crank up the affirmations at that time.
I love that. And I think I will reword that affirmation to, I'm doing my best to take care of myself.
Yeah.
And then that way it's still the truth and it's taking action, whether that's a short walk or journaling, meditation, but doing my best. So then I'm not under any stress or pressure.
Yeah.
Because if I jump straight to I am fit, I think, oh my goodness, what a load of crap. I can't do 10 push-ups right about now or 10 chin-ups. So I see what you mean, making it realistic and making it true to yourself. I love that. How can we stay in touch with you after this podcast show?
You can go to my website, which is drannakres.com. That's DRANNAKRESS.com. And you can find my book anywhere books are sold, including Amazon. And it's called Heal Your Past to Manifest Your Future. And those are great ways to get in touch with me.
Thank you, Dr. Anna Kress, for spending so much time with myself and our Feel Good From Within community and audience. I'm so grateful. I'm really grateful you went to all the effort to write your book. I think it's going to help so many people right around the world, and it's just such a timely book. And thank you again. It's been so helpful to me, and I'm sure our listeners here, once you get a copy of Dr. Anna Kress's book, Heal Your Past to Manifest Your Future, whether you listen to it via audio or in book form, I truly believe it's going to help you on your manifestation journey, especially if you've been like me and experienced a lot of trauma and are a trauma survivor. So thank you, Dr. Anna Kress.
Thank you so much, Yvette. This was so much fun, and I'm so happy that you read the book.
Bye.
Thanks for listening into this podcast episode. I hope you found this conversation of interest, of benefit to you. In support, I would love for you to subscribe to Feel Good From Within with Yvette Le Blowitz on any podcast app. I would also love if you would leave a 5-star rating and review in support too. Be sure to share the show with your family, friends, and community, and to subscribe to my mailing list at YvetteLeBlowitz.com or SparItGirl.com. Follow Spirit Girl or Yvette Le Blowitz or Feel Good From Within podcast on any social media app. And together, let's feel good from within.